All right, what's going on, Dolphins fans? Jacob here, Miami Dolphins Syndicate. This is the preview for the Miami Dolphins taking on the Tennessee Titans. That game is going to be on Monday Night Football, one of two Monday Night Football games this week, as the Packers and the Giants are also going to be playing at the exact same time. But this is the first opportunity, or when we thought it would be, coming into the season for Ryan Tannehill to return as a Tennessee Titan. He is not going to be the starting quarterback. The main man in charge now with the Tennessee Titans, as we all know, is Will Levis, and we've seen ups and downs from him since he's become the starter of the Tennessee Titans. That first game that he had against the Atlanta Falcons, 4 touchdowns, looked sharp, looked big, looked mobile, big can of an arm. Kind of regressed since then. 4 touchdowns in that first game, only 3 touchdowns since then. A 7-2 touchdown interception ratio is pretty good. He's been sacked 19 times in 6 games, so he gets sacked over 3 times per ball game. We know this Tennessee Titans offensive line isn't that good. Derrick Henry, who we'll get to in a second, is second in the league in rushing, so it hasn't affected him as much, but he definitely could have higher numbers than he does at this point. Will Levis, 6'4", rookie out of Kentucky, big arm, mobile, athletic, can hit over the top, doesn't have the weapons quite to do so. His best weapon is DeAndre Hopkins, 774 yards, 5 touchdowns. He hasn't had the greatest of seasons as he's starting to get older there in age and starting to come towards the end of his career in the NFL, making this stop with the Titans. He decided to go with the money. Can't really blame him on that, deciding money over a Super Bowl. So that's what we look at between in the passing game. With the rushing attack, it's obviously the main man is Derrick Henry. He's got 841 yards on the season, second in the NFL, just ahead of Raheem Mostert in that category. He's only averaging 4.3 per carry, which is down from his real prime seasons, but he's got in the end zone 8 times. It is a question mark as to whether he's going to play. Now, the latest on Derrick Henry is it looking like he's going to play. Mike Vrabel, as of Monday, said he was not in the protocol. He obviously had concussion symptoms on Sunday in the game against the Indianapolis Colts. Played the Colts very well, but this team is having a hard time finding wins. They're 4-8 on the season. That one win was against the Carolina Panthers since Will Levis, 2 wins since Will Levis has taken over. They won against the Falcons, and then since then they only have had 1 win in 5 games, that 1 win being against the Carolina Panthers. But Derrick Henry, possible concussion, might miss the game, and obviously that's a massive loss for any offense to be losing Derrick Henry, but they do have a very solid backup and another rookie in Tyjae Spears. He's got 329 yards and 2 touchdowns, which doesn't really jump off the page at you, but when Derrick Henry went down, really saw no dip in production. Derrick Henry last week had 21 carries, 102 yards, and 2 touchdowns, 16 carries for 75 yards from Tyjae Spears. You're looking at a drop from 4.9 to 4.7. But what you do get, whereas you don't have quite the bruiser, the punch you in the face running back that you have with Derrick Henry, you do get a lot more out of the backfield production in catching passes. And Tyjae had 4 catches on Sunday just for 13 yards. But he's more of an elusive back. He's got some speed. He's really got some pop into those runs. Hasn't quite hit a big run, but he has the ability to on any Sunday to do that. And this Tennessee team is giving as many opportunities to these running backs as really any team in the NFL. 42 carries against the Indianapolis Colts. It doesn't matter that it was an overtime game. You look over on the other side, the Colts only had 23 rushing attempts. This is a team that loves to run the ball. They don't run it well. They don't run the ball particularly efficiently. They're running behind a really bad offensive line, so it makes sense when you look at the construction of this team. It's one of the worst offensive lines in all of football, but they just continue to try to hammer that ball, especially with a rookie quarterback, try to give him as much help as you possibly can, give the ball to Derrick Henry as many times a game as they possibly can be. Like I said, he's the second leading rusher in the NFL, just behind Christian McCaffrey, just ahead of Raheem Mostert. This is rattling around. Let me turn this off real quick. The defensive side of the ball is definitely where you start to see some holes on this team as the defense has gotten worse each of the last few years. They actually had a quite solid defense last year. I believe it was a top 10 ranked defense, but far from the case. And they're likely going to, pretty much all but guaranteed, to be without Jeffrey Simmons. He sustained an injury last week, so did their punter. So they're going to bring in a new punter this week. But he left the game last week against the Colts with a knee injury, and it's currently being described as a week-to-week injury, so kind of similar situation that Jerome Baker is going through. And you look down at the actual defensive stats that they've got going on. They're 16th in points per game, which isn't terrible. You know, they're looking at around 21 points per game a little over 21 points per game. Most of the damage is done in the. It's about level in terms of where they really get burnt. They allow the ninth most passing touchdowns. They allow the eighth most rushing touchdowns. They allow the fifth most touchdowns in general in the NFL, which obviously is not ideal. Actually, I think that's the other way around. They maybe do the least. I think eighth and ninth least rather. So excuse me. They don't give up quite as many points as I initially thought they did. They give out about 1.2 passing touchdowns a game, and then 0.7 rushing touchdowns a game. So they've given up a lot of yards this year, but they do hold teams out of the end zone. So the defense has been good, not great, but it has gotten better, has gotten worse over the last few years as they've lost some players, and now with Jeffrey Simmons going down, massive loss to this team. That their best area on defense could be potentially their rushing defense. And now that taking a big blow, although the Dolphins' rushing defense doesn't really operate like any other defense in the NFL, so I'm not sure if it quite have the same impact by losing Jeffrey Simmons. With the Dolphins' rushing attack, love to get to the outside more so than running up the middle. So their biggest playmaker, obviously, Derrick Henry, All-Pro, guaranteed Hall of Famer, I think at this point. Was one of the best running backs you've ever seen. The combination of size and speed, the breakaway speed, once he's in an open field, even now, once he's gotten over 30 years old, the ability to just completely run away from defenders. Let me actually make sure that he is. I think he might be actually 29 rather than 30 years old. But I think he's around that 29, 30 years old mark. So he's still 29, but he's turning 30 in January. But with running backs, they start to get wore down very quickly. So he's really approaching that mark where you expect him to fall off a cliff. He hasn't quite done it yet. He's still highly producing, even if it doesn't seem like it, because this Tennessee Titans team has not played very well. They've played a lot better at home. They're 4-2 at home, but that does mean they've lost every single game that they've played so far on the road. And this week, a very tough task with a rookie quarterback, potentially with a backup rookie running back, with a backup defensive tackle, could potentially really be a doom type game for this Tennessee Titans team on a standalone game when everybody is watching. For the Miami Dolphins, the biggest injuries to look at is see as to whether Javon Holland will return. He had both of his knees injured apparently on the same exact play 2 weeks ago. So he missed the game last week, obviously, versus the Commanders, as well as Teron Armstead going down, which it just seems like he goes down every single game. Currently, it looks like both of those two are on track to play on Sunday, but especially with Teron Armstead, anything can happen. And with Javon Holland, with both knees being an injury, I would not be surprised if they held out another game. We've seen this team be very careful when it comes to injuries and not wanting to push guys back onto the field too soon to risk that re-injury. We've done it all year long with the likes of Teron Armstead, Connor Williams, Robert Hunt, and now we've seen that they've been a little more cautious with Javon Holland. But as things stand, it does look like they're both being projected to play. So how does this game really fare out for the Miami Dolphins? Like I said, this is a defense that, while they have done better as the second half of the season has gone out, or actually I guess really worse of allowing teams to not score a lot of points. You're looking in the last few weeks, 31 points against the Colts, the loss against the Jaguars, 34 points. So in good offenses, they do struggle to contain them and keep that points total from going up. This is a team that's gone the wrong direction. They started the season 2-2, and you think, okay, maybe they can put something together, maybe they can get into the playoffs. It was really expected to be the Jacksonville Jaguars division this year, and for the most part, it has. They did not expect the Houston Texans to usurp them in the standings, but it has been the case. And then they've just completely fallen off a cliff ever since that one game where that first game they got Will Levis. It looked hot, it looked positive. They were 3-4, potentially again, maybe you can go on a run, and then they lost 4 out of the last 5 games. Is a team that mentally is just not in a good space right now, and having to play this Miami Dolphins offense, which is as difficult as we've seen in NFL history. We've won 3 games in a row, beaten the teams we're supposed to beat, beaten these bad teams, put up 45 points really easily last week against the Commanders, 31 points at halftime, 34 points in the game against the Jets. This is the offense that is clicking. This is the defense that is clicking, I'd say even more so. This defense hasn't given up more than 20 points When you look at the Chiefs game, again, got to keep in mind that one of the touchdowns that the Chiefs had was a fumble recovery for a touchdown. So this defense has not allowed more than 20 points since the Panthers game, which was exactly 21 points. Before that was 16 points to the Giants. So you're looking all the way back to the Buffalo Bills game, where it was really the last time this defense was truly bad. 15 points last week, 13 against the Jets, 13 against the Raiders, truly 14 against the Chiefs, 17 against the Patriots. Actually, I did miss the Eagles game in between there when we allowed 31 points. But this defense, especially since Jalen Ramsey's come back, has been so massively improved. Since he's been back, he's only allowed 7 completions in totality while on the field. Him and Xavier Howard have been a brilliant connection. He's been better than Xavier Howard is. Xavier Howard is not having a bad season, but we're starting to see his age a little bit. He's not quite the corner he used to be, whereas Jalen Ramsey, you're still getting Pro Bowl numbers from him since he's come back from injury. So how do I expect this game to necessarily go? I think this is a game that I don't think we're going to quite blow them out like we did the Commanders, because they do have some talent. And when you have Will Levis, it's a big arm quarterback. He can hit that pass over the top. We saw it connect with DeAndre Hopkins. Pretty much all of their touchdowns that they've connected on have been over the top. And when you're already kind of weak at second or with safety, with Javon Holland's injury, that is something that I am a little bit concerned about. Are they going to be able to hit that ball over the top? We saw the Raiders do it with Devontae Adams, O'Connell connecting to him at the end of the first quarter when we played the Raiders. So if we're going to get beat, especially since you are so worried about Derrick Henry, it is a question mark as to whether he plays, but Vrabel thinks he's going to play. He looked fine, really. He wasn't really wobbling around that game against the Colts on Sunday, but teams this year, the NFL this year, is being a little more careful when it comes to injuries and making, especially concussions, making sure guys don't go out there and sustain another concussion or make themselves even worse, pretty much because of what happened to Tua last year. But that really opens up the deep ball, and that's what we've seen from this Tennessee Titans team for the longest time. Like Ryan Tannehill, play action, look deep to A.J. Brown. Now it's look deep to DeAndre Hopkins. So if they're going to hit it, it's going to be Derrick Henry just grind, big shot over the top. That's how this offense runs. And then when you get into the red zone, it's just give it to Derrick Henry 2 times in a row on the first 2 downs, set it up third and 2, and you can really make your mind up from there. But I do expect this to be a game for the Dolphins handled pretty comfortably. This Tennessee defense has gotten worse over the last month of the season. And coming against this high-flying passing attack with the Miami Dolphins, I expect us to get what we want. I don't expect them to do what the Commanders did last week and just single cover Tyreek Hill and say, hey, somebody else beat us. Or let him beat us, let nobody else beat us. That obviously didn't work. So I don't expect them to take that same exact approach. I expect them to hound more on Tyreek Hill. Maybe this is a game for Jalen Waddle to get back in action. Only 5 catches, 55 yards last week. Maybe I can see him around 8 catches for 90 yards. I can see Tyreek, because he just always gets over 100 yards. Probably be like around the 6 or 7 catches, 110-yard mark. But this is a game that I think we can score a lot of points. I'm going to go ahead and say Miami Dolphins 35, Tennessee Titans 14. Derrick Henry also gets in the end zone once they find a touchdown somewhere else around. Let us know in the comments what you think about the game on Sunday. Who do you think is going to win? Let me know your score predictions down below. While down there, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Thank you all very much for watching. Have a great rest of your day.